So Behringer just did a release video for their new Wave synthesizer, a clone of the PPG Wave, and I have to be honest, it sounds really good and it's getting a lot of people excited. So I thought it would be a good idea today to do a quick kind of informal discussion on my thoughts on the Behringer Wave, as I don't own a Behringer Wave, it's not out yet, but I do own a third Wave. It's my favorite synth in my studio, and I love the PPG sound that both these synths kind of are inspired by, whereas the Behringer is like a strict clone, whereas the third Wave does a whole lot more, but is obviously a lot more expensive. So neither company is sponsoring me, neither company knows that I'm, gonna do a video like this. In full transparency, I have worked with Groove Synthesis before. I love them as a company, and I definitely highly recommend, if you have the budget, get a third Wave. But I will also say that the Behringer Wave, at least from this first video, is really impressing me. So make sure to let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the Behringer Wave. Are you gonna get one? Are you not getting one? And let me know if you like this kind of more informal video. I wanted to make this because on my previous third Wave videos, I've had a lot of people talk about how it's their dream synth, but it's out of the budget. Fair, it's really expensive. So I wanna give you my honest opinion on what the Behringer Wave will get you and what it won't get you, at least from this first deep dive demo, and hear your thoughts as well. So let's get started. The first thing to know from the video is, does the Behringer Wave nail the PPG sound, and what even is the PPG sound? So a lot of the comments I was reading seem to be talking about the PPG sound as just generic wavetable synthesis, but in reality, it's something a lot more special, and that's why I love it so much. So take a listen to this patch, which is a factory third wave, factory PPG program that I think really sums up the PPG sound. It's completely dry with no effects. You hear, there's this really beautiful, almost like crunchy, lo-fi stepping sound when I modulate the waveforms, but it sort of sounds warm in its own way, which is really interesting because the Behringer Wave, the PPG Wave, the third Wave, all of them use digital wavetable oscillators for their sound source. But there's a couple things that make us perceive the sound as so nice and so different, and why I think, this is my favorite synth that I own, hands down, and the Behringer Wave seems really exciting as a more budget option. And that's basically because the analog filters, you need to have this style of Prophet style analog filter to smooth out the wavetables, because the style of wavetables that they're using on the Behringer Wave, and that one of the options, which we'll get into on the third Wave, they're really lo-fi, aliased, stepped waveforms that basically the PPG Wave was the first widely available wavetable synth, and the memory was so limited back then. So it really creates a sound. So for everyone asking, why is it only 8 voices on the Behringer Wave? Well, that's because it costs money to put in analog filters. And if you do want more voices, again, the third Wave, 24 voices, absolutely destroys it there. Like, we've already used way more than 8 voices here. Trust me, like, if you want to just skip to the end of the video, if you can afford a third Wave over a Behringer Wave, get this. If you like the sound, this will blow your mind. It's my favorite synth I own, but that's not what we're talking about today. So the other thing that I think is really key to a PPG Wave sound, and this is where I'm not sure if the Behringer Wave nails it, is the stereo kind of binaural panning side. So synth historians, feel free to correct me, but my understanding is that one of the ways that the PPG Wave was able to really do these factory patches that sounded thick enough to match with their analog counterparts is by having a binaural sound. They're one of the earliest binaural synths. Correct me if I'm wrong there. This is just what my research found me. So what a binaural synth is having one exact synthesizer with all your voices on one side, fully left, and one binaural synthesizer with all of the voices exactly the same on the right. And it's the little imperfections between the CPUs, the analog filters being not calibrated exactly right, that give it the width. Listen to this sound. we can really hear just how wide it is. And I don't think from the video that I've seen that the Behringer Wave can do this. I know that it can do 2 sounds at once, and it does have that stereo spread, but I'm worried that if you go in expecting this kind of really big, wide stereo PPG patch, remember, we're listening to this dry. Let's bring down a little bit of that circuit drift. Bring in some reverb, and remember, the third wave has full reverb effects, delay, everything you'd want. Behringer Wave is completely dry. They're playing it with reverb in the video, so make sure that if you do get a Behringer Wave, you get a really good reverb with it, because you frankly kind of need really good reverb for PPG wavetable sounds to really shine. Listen how beautiful that sounds. The other thing that's really important to note is that if you're going for the Behringer Wave, just make sure that you're really just looking for it to do that one-trick pony thing of this PPG wavetable sound, namely this kind of sound that we were hearing in the intro of those crunchy wavetables, because the third wave, while it's a lot more expensive, yes, you're really getting a full-on deep workstation synth that can do everything from FM, virtual analog, sampling, the sky's the limit, multi-timbral 4 parts. So I'm gonna just show you a couple different really cool patches that I've made from my custom patch banks that just kind of show you like how varied this synth is, and the kind of thing that frankly you were not gonna be able to do on the Behringer Wave. So if you've heard what you've liked so far and you're like, yeah, I love that, minus the binaural stuff and the effects, then definitely the Behringer Wave seems like it could be a great option. I'm really excited to see, and maybe even get one in my studio if enough people ask me to review it. Whereas the kind of sounds you're gonna hear now, you're not gonna get this on the Behringer Wave. This is just, you know, what you're gonna get from a super deep, large form factor professional flagship like this. So the Behringer Wave really, again, it sounds great for what it is, but you're really making sure you're understanding that you're just getting the one PPG Wave vintage vibe, wavetables into analog filters thing, which sounds great, but be careful if you're looking for something that can do more different types of synthesis. You're really going to want to consider something like the third wave for that kind of thing, because the third wave, for example, has all these different wavetables, including user wavetables, samples, different types of white noise, virtual analog. So let me show you a couple patches. So here is a binaural Oberheim Prophet style analog that I use all the time on my music. Right, really cool. Let me show you one more. This is a great example up here. I'll show you a really, really cool one that's quite metallic, but makes use of the different 4 parts, because again, there's 4 different parts on the synth, 24 voices, and it sequences all 4 together with some really powerful metallic modulation. I call it Death Factory. Pretty cool, right? One more I'll show you here is a really interesting, more modern sound. It's kind of like dubstep influenced. Very cool, right? So that makes use of some of the more modern user wavetable slots, which the Behringer Wave is just going to have the factory PPG as far as I understand. The final thing to take this home, let's even just initialize a patch here, because some final thing I want to make sure everybody's aware of is that, with the Behringer Wave, you're getting that dry output, which a lot of the wavetable sounds we've been hearing have been dry, but a lot of that demo, they're playing it through an external reverb. So I figured I'd just go to show just how powerful a really good reverb is, so that if you do get the Behringer Wave and you do want to, see what you could add to it, my recommendation would always be to get a really good reverb pedal. I've got this Strymon Big Sky MX here, but if you want to use a free reverb plugin, Valhalla Supermassive works great with PPG style sounds as well. So here's our initialized sound. And let's start to just transform it. Let's make a quick sequence. So we'll just make a simple. Let's bring in some reverb. Beautiful, right? So yeah, definitely 100%, just make sure whichever wavetable synth you're gonna go with, even if it's a modern one like the Argon, which I've reviewed, which is great as well for those modern wavetable sounds, get a good reverb. Come on, treat yourself. Reverb with wavetables is like peanut butter and jelly. All right, I think that's enough of my rambling for today. If you're still with me, thank you very much. Let me know in the comments what you think. I really, truly am very excited that the PPG Wave sound is coming to more people. To sum this up, if you really only want that monophonic or stereo spread PPG wavetable sound, for 600 bucks, the Behringer Wave is an incredible deal. Just make sure, like I say, that you get a reverb pedal or at least a reverb plugin, because I think a lot of people might be disappointed when the Behringer Wave shows up and there's no reverb because the demo is completely drenched in reverb for most of the time. He does mention it. But yeah, anyways, if you want a more fully featured deep dive synth that does a ton more than just the PPG stuff, we didn't even tap into the sampling or the recording user wavetables or smoothing of the aliasing. It can do all that too. Has 24 voices. If you have the budget for it, the Third Wave, seriously, I've owned pretty much every modern synth, and it's one of my all-time favorite synths that I've ever laid my hands on. I know for me personally, if enough people ask, I'll pick up a Behringer Wave for the studio and just kind of see how it sounds and give you my honest thoughts. I'll take one for the team and just resell it after, because let's face it, it's not gonna replace my Third Wave. But yeah, let me know if you'd be interested in seeing that. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out my custom synth patches if you're new around here. I have custom packs for many synths, and I will see you in the next video.